What's up, everybody? Matt Tobacco from SmokinTabacco.com here, and I am joined once again with my good friend John Carney. And today we're going to smoke some cigars and continue this little weekly routine we got going at the Smokin Tobacco show. So, John, how are you?
Doing good. I just went back to the main screen here. Hopefully we do better than last week. Last week was May Day Eve. It was a catastrophe. Things went really poorly, and we're back here again. We're giving it the old college try. We're doing no guests this week, just us. So that'll be good. So hopefully this works. But if it doesn't, bear with us. We'll go back on Zoom. We'll have a good time. But hopefully we can put together a good show here, and it'll come together nicely. And I just want to prove to myself that I'm able to get this done.
Yeah.
Not just for you, but originally I wanted to do something nice for you. Now I really want to do this for myself, just because what happened it was May Day Eve last week. It was really like the May Day Eve massacre. It was awful. I was just a broken man after, and here we are
Yeah.
back again. So Matt, thanks for having me. It seems to be going smooth so far. Everyone can hear us. We got the ladies on so far, and we'll have some more as we go on. But any questions, we'll start answering them throughout the show as something comes up. But yeah, great to be back on, man. How you been this week?
Well, I've been better. I woke up to a handful of things. These days, I feel like you wake up to a new surprise every day. Today, I found out my Amazon account was deleted for whatever reason. And so I had to spend hours fighting with them with that. And then it just turned into one thing after another. But other than that, this week has been okay. It's just been busy. Smoking a lot of cigars, lighting them up, burning them down as we do. And just riding the coronavirus out, hoping that it's over soon. And
so Amazon's really like the lifeblood of this coronavirus for people, because of the ability to have things sent to you, and the quickness, the nature of it, not having to go outside. I'm a brick and mortar guy. I like brick and mortar stores, but I mean, losing your Amazon account in the middle of coronavirus has got to be a personal just beatdown. I mean, I don't say it's at the same level as the May Day massacre, but I mean that's a big deal. If I lost my Amazon account, and by the way, the thing for me that's would be so frustrating about that is it's like you pay for it and then you call them up and and eventually it'll work itself out. But it's like you're a member of something. They tell you, hey, excuse me, sir, no, you're not a member. Essentially,
yeah,
is what they told you. It's like you got thrown out. You got thrown out of the club.
I got thrown out of the club with no explanation for no rhyme or reason. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you how it happened or whatever and whatnot. And it's like last night I was video chatting with my girlfriend, and I was, talking to her about, I've been getting into my fitness and my health and wellness lately. And I was going over a bunch of supplements I was ordering, and, powder and pills and exercise stuff that I wanted. And I had all this stuff I ordered. And then this morning I found out that my Amazon account gets randomly deleted. And I'm like, all right, well, number one, why? Number two, what about all the stuff I ordered? Like, am I supposed to reorder it? Are you still sending that? Like, then they tell me that I confirmed in an email that it was deleted, and I said, no, I didn't. So now I'm like, is there someone else involved in this? Had to make a whole new account. Then I had to talk to him. What a shit show that was. I mean, it's, and like you said, it's coronavirus, especially, you're kind of relying on Amazon to get some of your stuff. And, yeah, here I am trying to get my stuff that otherwise I just run to the store and get. And now I don't my stuff's in limbo because I'm like, someone decided to try and delete my Amazon account for whatever reason.
So I had a similar situation, not with Amazon. This was even more irritating. My Netflix account was hacked about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's really annoying for me because like you'll jump on different videos, you'll start watching a movie or a show, and then you pick up where you left off on any of your devices. So it was hacked. So I jump in there, and before I found out it was hacked, um, I just hadn't been on it for a couple days. So I jump on Netflix, and I'm like, it's like all these anime movies and all this different stuff. So it was obviously hacked from somewhere where anime was very popular. And so I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I didn't watch Naruto. I didn't watch, XYZ anime film, and nothing against it. But so the whole thing was hacked, and all my lists had been updated to like have every single anime film was like on my list. So I was like, I didn't know where I was on shows. So anyway, I call them up, and then eventually the password got changed, so I couldn't get on. So I get a hold of Netflix. They did right by me, which was nice, but they can't really reverse the damage that was done. So it was like I had to start over fresh on my Netflix. I mean, first world problems, but still, it was still a challenging issue at the time. But Amazon would definitely be challenging too. But hey, what are you smoking tonight, bro?
Tonight I'm smoking the Plasencia Alma Fuerte. I believe it's the Toro. They have a couple different sizes. They have a couple of odd sizes and a couple of odd Figurados
So
that they have, which are cool. But yeah, this is just like a standard Toro.
it's interesting that we're doing this show together, which is fun. There's a
Yeah.
couple reasons why it's fun, is because generally, I don't necessarily consider this media, yet. Eventually, hopefully, it grows into where you're a media, essentially a media outlet and things. But like I'm a sales executive for a rather prominent cigar company, so I get to be on a show here with you for the last couple of weeks, and a few times we've done this, but now with the more consistency, and kind of give some opinions and some information and different things on some of these brands. And I said I'll always be respectful, but Plasencia is one of the biggest companies in all of premium cigars, and they're big in regards to being growers and producers of cigars. They make a lot of private label products for some very prominent brands, and they're the big beast that very few people know about, and they hear the name around, but they don't really associate with it until they started coming out with what you're smoking now, like the Alma Fuerte. They had some other. They had another brand that's losing my mind. Leaving my mind right now. But the Alma Fuerte, and then once they started putting Plasencia on their bands, people are like, "Oh, there's Plasencia. I mean, these are really nice." I'm like, "Yeah, they make great cigars. Imagine how good they're going to be when they put their name on it." And they never had really exposed themselves as a company that way. They dabbled in it a little, but they were always they've always been a major grower and a major producer of private label products and producing brands for other cigars for other brands. But when they came out with their own products, I'd say it was probably 4 years ago now. Where it really got prominence. I may be off a little bit, but they're really fantastic cigars. So I mean, they're excellent. There's not a cigar company in the planet that doesn't have some sort of connection with Plasencia.
Yeah.
There's none. There's zero. It just doesn't exist. And if somebody says there is, oh, I don't do this, you're a liar. There's some sort of connection you just must not know about it. But so Plasencia is the Plasencia family, great people, but also one of the biggest non-known, general day-to-day known brands in the company. But they got their hands in everything. So it's cool that you're smoking that today. I'm smoking a TAA 50th Segunda Edición, second edition. Maduro, one of my favorite cigars. I actually haven't had this for a few weeks, so it'll be fun to light it up tonight.
That one I actually haven't had, and I want to. It's on my list if I can find some.
I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy too. But yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I'm a big fan of La Flor Dominicana. I mean, everybody knows that. I smoke a lot of La Volcada, Andalusian Bulls, the Lennox, the Double Lajero, are like probably my big four favorites from La Flor Dominicana. So I am no stranger to them. But I wanted to bring some light for those of you guys who do follow me. I did write an article this week about another brand, smaller brand, kind of new to the scene. I think, John, you know about this brand. And that is going to be Nova, the Platinum Nova. You've probably seen these guys around on social media, at least. Those cigars have been popping up on Instagram. The company CEO, Leo, goes by Cigar Blondie on Instagram, and she's really popular on there, and you see her smoking Novas all day long. I was fortunate enough to get a sample pack from Nova and try them out and smoke through them, and they were fantastic. And my favorites so far were the Platinum Batch Robusto, the Leo X, and the Club Edition. Fantastic cigars, great quality, all around good cigar. I did a whole write-up on kind of like their brief history, a little bit about them. Did like some micro reviews of some of those cigars that I smoked, and they are on SmokinTabacco.com. I think Nova sent them out too on their social media platforms, so you can go on there and check it out. I'm also just want to bring this up really quick while we're on the topic. I do have an email campaign out there now, so I give you updates when I do write new stuff, or as people have been asking a lot about the merchandise. Going to be rolling out an online store pretty soon. I'm still working on that. Also, I have some new shirt ideas that I'm coming out with some cool slogans. I'm not sharing them right now, kind of keep them under wraps, but my girlfriend came up with those. I got to give her credit for that. And we're working on those, so those will be available soon. And go on there, sign up on SmokinTabacco.com, put your email in, get the updates. Sending out our first email blast. But yeah, back to the Nova. like I said, it's a newer brand. They made their debut at the IPC PR trade show in Las Vegas last year, and from what I understand, great success. They had best there. John, I know you were at the show there last year. I'm not sure if you ran into them
I
or
I
if you.
am I'm familiar with Nova. By the way, I flipped my hat around backwards just because I got this hair coming out, and I just wanted to have it extend out the front here. And by the way, Matt, I love this hat, but with the hair, I couldn't figure out how to get the brim of the hat to look straight. It was driving me nuts. By the time when I do these shows, I mean, it's probably not going to come to a surprise to most people that watch. I spend most of the time watching myself to make sure that I look okay and I'm respectful and viewable. So I flipped the hat around because the brim of the hat was driving me nuts. Most people that probably didn't bother them, they probably think I'm probably maybe I looked better. I don't know, but I had to flip the hat around. But no, Nova. I'm familiar with them. I'm aware of the brand. I do not know very much about them whatsoever. Um, so for me, they're pretty new in terms of. I know they are a newer brand, but they're new for me also in regards to my knowledge on it. I've never smoked them. I am familiar with Cigar Blondie. She's been in the industry for a bit, and she worked in some rather prominent retailers. I
Oh
believe
yeah.
she worked at Nat Sherman up in New York originally, and she worked
Oh,
for Prime Cigar in Boca, I believe. But she's a
yeah.
sweetheart. I've always had good interactions with her. I don't know her intimately well, as a friend level. But it
Yeah.
was always a good relationship in terms of business. So, she's been doing a great job with that. And I think I really do like about the Nova stuff is that the product looks nice. The bands look
Yeah.
nice. It's a real deal product.
Yeah.
It's not just something that was put together. You can obviously tell there was time and time spent on it just visually. But in terms of smoking, I have not tried it, so I can't speak on the smoking experience as you can. But you mentioned something on the show. I wanted to go here at the risk of losing the connection. Anything I do on the computer, I'm afraid about. But I wanted to go back. You mentioned the website real quick. I wanted to visit the website, and I'm trying to switch over here. Um, Oh, the scene's locked. There we go. I'm trying to switch over to the website because I wanted to take a look at where that section was. So right now on the screen we have the website here. So where on the website can people sign up for your news and information?
The homepage, right below the video, the featured video of the
Where it
month.
says subscribe. Yep, you put your
It says,
name in there, first, last name, email address. Awesome. Yeah, I got that right up on the screen. So SmokinTabacco.com and you can subscribe.
that's right. Yeah, we wanted to get people there and then give them updates for when new stuff comes out, when new articles post. Obviously, I got some good stuff I'm working on. That Nova write up that I did, I have a lot of compliments on that one, and it was really well. It was received really well, and it was good for them. And as I said, I really enjoy the brand, so I really wanted to write something good for them and really push them. Like I said, they are a newer company, so. But yeah,
Where did you
get people.
pick Nova up? Did you pick Nova up?
Those I got off of the Nova website at novar.com or cigars. It might be novacigars.com, might be
Understood.
plural. Yeah, right off the website. They have some really good stuff on there. They have a lot of limited edition stuff too that they make, in addition to their regular mainstay stuff like the Leo, the Club Edition, the whole Platinum line, the Platinum Batch line.
So let's
Um,
let's talk about that real quick. That's an interesting. So this would be stuff that if somebody gets offended by this, I apologize. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but if you get offended, that's a you problem, not a me problem. What do you
yeah,
what do you think is you're a newer cigar smoker. I would say you're definitely an advanced cigar smoker, but you're a newer cigar smoker. But what does limited edition mean to you?
to me, I would take a limited edition cigar as something that's made in a limited production. It might be only a one time. For example, David Garofalo, our friend David Garofalo at Two Guys Cigars,
Never met him.
always.
Never met him. I don't know who he is. Right? I'd love to meet him sometime. If you could arrange a meeting.
Yeah, I think we can set that up.
Well,
He's
cool.
pretty local,
All right.
but he's got a cigar that he comes out with every year. For those who don't know, called the Firecracker, and every year it's usually like a different manufacturer. This year, I think we can say it now. It's going to be made by Nick Perdomo Cigars, and it will be on the 20th anniversary Sun-Grown blend. And for those of you who don't know what the Firecracker cigar is, it's kind of what it sounds. It's shorter than a Robusto. It's about 3.5 inches long, 4 inches long, with a long fuse tail of the other end of the wrapper leaf that's rolled into a fuse, and it looks like a firecracker. Those are usually made, I think, in 500 count box batches, and it's like a one-time release. And when they're gone, they're gone. Last year was the Pissed Off Christoph from Christoph Cigars, the Glen Case. 500 boxes. When they were gone, they were gone. To me, that's a limited edition. I would also consider something limited edition that maybe does come back, but like, for example, like Room 101 has the Death Bucket, which they came out with a few years ago, and then I think they brought it back this year in a limited run. So if it's intermittent, but I wouldn't call something limited edition that's in a normal production schedule.
So for me, in the capacity that I'm in, I have a personal way that I view limited editions, and also I had the luxury of being in a position I am where I get to classify the products that we have essentially to our retailers. So for me, limited edition is a set quantity where this is what we're going to make, this is what it is, and when it's done, it's done. Now, there, in my opinion, you mentioned, a limited edition may come back. A limited edition product can be a series of products. For example, at Two Guys, which you referenced, the Firecracker is a limited edition series spread across different brands. And then
Right.
you can have limited edition series within brands. Like La Flor Dominicana has the factory press line. We're on, yeesh, I've lost track of everything. This quarantine's getting to me, bro. So I think we're on our fifth edition of the factory press, and we're on our seventh edition of our LG small batch. So that's a limited edition with a set quantity that has a recurring time frame to it. Now it's not a science; it's not like every year, every 18 months, but it's a frame of like every year and a half, 2 years, 3 years at the most. So for me, limited edition is has a set quantity, and that's it. When it's gone, it's gone. If it's 1,000 boxes, that's fine. If it's 5,000, that's probably a big production, but it's still limited. It says when it's gone, it's gone. But for me, a definition of limited edition has to be a set quantity, and when it's done, and it'll never come back again. If it does come back again, it comes back as another rendition. It's just a series of that. And then there's limited production, where you make it ongoing as much as you can, but it's limited because of the quantity and supply of the materials to make it, such as for La Flor Dominicana, the Andalusian Bull is a limited production item. We make as much as we can based off of what we have for supplies, whereas like the factory press, the LG line, and our LG small batch are classified as limited edition. So I think in the cigar industry, a lot of this gets crossed over because you can say, oh, this is limited edition, but what does that really mean? Um, you know, did we fog the line between limited edition, regular production, or limited production? So like I like to put some sort of a standard on it and some sort of um, you know, a qualification for me personally. So that's what we did here at LFD at the same time as well. But yeah, I think what your definition of limited edition is pretty much lined up with mine is. But for just has to limited edition to have an end point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that. Like I said, like you said, I would agree with that. I think it's something that's it's not it's limited count, limited production. It may return in a different form. It could be a kind of like what you were saying. I like to use the fracker itself. It's something that they do every year, but every year it's someone else. So a particular one that you had last year is not going to be what you have next year, which would make it limited. So unless you stock up on boxes and you save your boxes or whatever, and you have them for a long time. But yeah, I mean, small releases. I mean, even La Flor Dominicana, they did a firecracker with Smoke Shop, I believe.
Yeah, which is amazing because like I said, that Dave and I had never met, so that's kind of interesting that we've done that.
Oh,
But yeah, no, I limited edition has to be limited. It has to be done. It can't be ongoing. And you know, and I like to think in terms of limited edition that it's special. Like it doesn't just say limited edition because we could only make so many of it. I think that's what if you have something that's limited edition that you could make, say you could make 1,000 boxes a year of it. That would for me, I would classify as limited production. Limited edition is this is what we're making. When it's done, it's done. If we make it again, it's going to be different. But it's not going to be the same thing ongoing. So I think sometimes in the cigar business, and I think the industry's done a good job at this. There used to be limited editions where it was like, oh, limited edition this, and then it was, it just slightly changed, and they made every year there was a version of it. I mean, if you're going to release a limited edition every single year, it's not limited. A limited edition must end.
yeah, exactly. I mean, so for example, you look at I would just to bring this up for maybe the people who are not as experienced with it, but for cigars such as like your own Andalusian Bull, and even for those maybe who are familiar with Arturo Fuente's Opus X collection, I wouldn't call those limited edition. I would maybe call those, well, I'd call Opus X limited availability because I think there's more of those than people think. But like Andalusian Bull is obviously one of those cigars that, yeah, like it's not always easy to get. So would you classify Andalusian Bull as like limited production?
Oh,
Because
100%. Yeah, I would. And I honestly, if now every company gets to classify it on their own way, but I would classify Opus X as limited production because Opus exists every year. So I would
yeah,
classify that as limited production. Now, it's limited production in nature because Opus X doesn't end. Now, it's also essentially it's almost a vintage crop, a vintage product where it's based off of tobaccos that are grown for certain years. But that is truly, a limited edition product because there will be opus every year. Now the quantities change based off of supplies, but there's not a set number. It's now I would say like the Opus X Angel share from years past, like that's not readily available. And I would classify the Opus X Angel share more of a limited edition part of a limited production line. So we do have a question from the chat box. Throw this in real quick. We may know this person. Let me see if we can get it on here. Susan Moore Tobacco from the Tobacco Estates says, "What cigar do you suggest for female smokers or first-time smokers?"
I think we could both answer this. I'm gonna go first. Shout out really quick to Melanie, my friend Melanie, our friend Melanie. We both know Melanie. What's up, Melanie? Um,
That
Honestly,
you know.
I was having this conversation. I would recommend to a. I mean, I don't know. I would say to any first time smoker. Maybe it makes more sense for females because maybe females are not. I don't know. Some of them maybe not so prominent with strong flavors and smoke and all that. But for anybody starting out, I would like to start with something mild. And honestly, um, definitely something Connecticut wrapper. Something definitely mild. Um, one of the ones I've been telling people lately has been the Robusto Platinum Batch from Nova. It's got that sweet tip on it. It's a mild smoke. It's a velvety smoke. It won't kick you in the ass. I think it's a great morning cigar myself. I would easily smoke that outside, with a cup of coffee by the pool, and just read my emails and just check it, and just check on my news for the day to start my day. It's not overpowering. I think that's great. The sweetness factor makes it a little bit more inviting to someone who's new to cigars, or anything maybe from like any of those like the chocolate coffee flavored cigars too. I think is good because it kind of gets you. I don't know. I feel like it's a good transition because you get that sweetness to it. You got some of the mildness. It eases you into it. If you like it, then you can kind of go from there. That's my personal feeling. But I'm curious to see what the great John Carney would say.
Thank you for putting the great in front of it. Not needed. So the easiest thing for people to say in the cigar business would be, oh well, I have flavored cigars. This, but I hate introducing flavored cigars as the first cigar for anyone, because one, the first thing that's important to know is, all right, do you want to smoke a cigar? You know what I mean? Are you looking for natural flavors? Are you looking for um, you know, or what do you want to smoke the cigar? Because sometimes it's like the people would just want to be around that environment. So that would definitely label what I do. And then if they're not really into smoking a cigar, and this specifically this case was asked about a woman. If a woman's not really into smoking the cigar, same thing with my male friends. If they're just not into smoking cigars, there's certain things I won't give them. If they just want to smoke for the sake of being around it, for the entertainment value, and they're not going to take it very serious, a flavored cigar or a non-flavored cigar is not really going to impact it that much. But if it's your first time and you're looking to give it a shot, I would definitely work with something a little milder. Definitely because you don't want to have an experience that's negative.
Mhm.
With something that's a little stronger. So I start usually with a milder cigar and a smaller cigar. So Connecticut Shade, Habano wrapped. I even sometimes, um, actually more most of the time, I actually kind of go to more medium, because some of the milder cigars don't have a tons of flavor, so people smoke it. In this case, it said for the question, a woman will smoke it and be like, it's just kind of like air. It's just like smoke. So I'm careful with the milder cigars I select, brands I would select it from. And then sometimes I go up to a more medium because I know a medium body is not going to really kick their butt. If I pick a smaller size, they're going to smoke it and get some of that flavor that we enjoy in fuller cigars. Because I mean, I smoke medium bodied, but I mean, I consider this medium bodied for LFD. I mean, we make stuff that's a lot stronger, but this is a strong cigar. But
Right.
I sometimes I'm more inclined to recommend medium bodied cigars, just because there's so much flavor there, and that person may be introduced to it and like it. And if they don't, and that's not for them, and they just want to be around for the experience, and they want something that's a little more, I wouldn't necessarily say artificial, but they want something that's flavor enhanced. I could always go to a flavor infused cigar, and that's something they can enjoy in a short setting to be around that moment and have that value of entertainment. But I always recommend trying a non-flavored cigar first to see if you like it. And also, I would discover during a discovery phase of brief questions to see if they, what their interest is in actually smoking cigars, and if they're really interested in trying it and getting into it, and it's not just for the social aspect. I'd give them something a little more medium body just so they can get some of the natural flavors from it, and then you can work your way backwards, and then but going just straight mild, which has always been, oh, you don't really smoke a lot, so I'll give you something mild. Well, I'll give you something mild that's just going to be like, it's going to have some flavor, but you can't really identify it. When you get into more medium bodied cigars, you can be like, man, I get leather. If it's a Maduro wrapper, I'm getting a mouth feel of natural sweetness.
Yeah.
I'm getting some richness on my palate. It's more of a mouth feel in that stage. So if you do something like that, you're going to have a more positive experience, or the likelihood of that. So I try to go more medium bodied when I recommend. So, for a first time smoker or a woman smoker, for the sake of this question, I would recommend a medium bodied cigar. Uh, a medium to mild, but more on the medium side. And I would stay away from the flavor infused because you can always go back to flavor infused. But I would definitely ask that question first of what you're looking to experience. Is it for the social aspect of it for a brief moment, or is it something that you want to do on an occasional basis and really, really enjoy? So I think the medium bodied products are a great start for a more novice smoker, so you can test that flavor potential out there.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. You made some good points there. I mean, especially with Maduro too. I mean, does have that natural sweetness to them, which is also good. It is more of a mouthful. I don't think I would definitely stay away from anything full. Anything I'd probably try to stay away from anything maybe broadleaf Connecticut. Sometimes some of those cigars can be a little bit much.
Nah, you're
Uh,
fine. There's a lot of medium broadleafs. There's a lot of medium broadleafs. One of my favorite medium-bodied cigars is a broadleaf Maduro, the Ashton Connecticut, the Ashton aged Maduro, which is a broadleaf Connecticut wrapper,
mhm.
made by Fuente. It's incredible. It's awesome. It's arguably, in my opinion, it's one of the best Maduros that comes out of Fuente. It's incredible. That's a medium-bodied cigar. It's not full. It's not aggressive. But the reason why in this industry a lot of fuller-bodied blends get Maduro wrappers put on them is because
Mhm.
Maduro is naturally sweeter. It's got that mouthfeel because of the aging and fermentation. It ages and ferments for a longer period of time at a higher temperature, which causes it to get dark. And that creates natural sweetness. So they put that on a fuller body blend to create balance. So if you were cooking a dish as a chef, you'd want to create balance and flavor complexity and build on the flavors and have layers of flavor. So Maduro wrapper with a fuller body blend allows for more flavor depth and more flavor contrasting. So it really works together. But so yeah, I would say the majority of Maduros are a little fuller body, but it's for that nature. But it definitely doesn't have to be that way. And back in the day, I would say during the cigar boom in the 90s, which I really wasn't around for, but there's definitely classic cigars, and more traditional products. When Maduro was introduced, it wasn't introduced on really full-bodied cigars.
Yeah. No, but it's a good question. It does get asked. I have a lot of women ask me this question. So yeah, I'm glad it came
I
up, and
mean,
I'm glad we.
you were just surrounded by women. It's just amazing. Like
Well,
you just got women asking you questions all the time, all this stuff. You got the girlfriend here. She's interested in this. I mean, I'm interested in you. I'm not a woman. I mean, this is just you're just a dynamic character here. And but no, yeah, you're right. No, it is. It does get asked a lot. And by the way, this is not to be sexist by any means. That's just as there's things that are reality. A lot of women ask, "What should I smoke? What should I get into?" And if you just go straight to flavored cigars, that to me is more of a judgmental decision than it would be to say let's work through this and let's give you something that has some complexity and flavor and see what you like. The same thing that I
Yeah.
would do with a male smoker or any of the other 78 genders that now exist.
Yeah, that's a good point. Um, um, yeah, actually, my girlfriend went on and she ordered some cigars from Nova, and she ordered a sampler of cigars. I think she ordered some from Dave too. She went on Dave's website and ordered like just like she actually. And what I will say is, and I have to give her credit for this because she actually I had nothing to do with it. I mean, I told her where to go, but I didn't tell her like get this stick, get this stick. She went on there on her own, and she read through all the cigars with the tasting notes and the flavor profiles and all the information, and she picked cigars based on that on her own to try for the first time to see what she would like. I had nothing to do with it. I have to give her props to that because I know there's a lot of people out there who just looked at someone like, hey, like tell me what to get and try. She went on and she picked everything herself. She did her own research. She ordered her own cutter. She ordered her own lighter. She ordered her own cigar sampler kit. And now I think they're coming tomorrow. And so she's like all excited, and she did it all herself. And props to her. I have to, give that to her. So I'm excited to see what she thinks.
So there was a message here in the chat box that says, John, tell a good Dave Garofalo Super Bowl story. Didn't you take him? No, I did not take Dave to the Super Bowl. Dave took his family to the Super Bowl. I met with Dave and we went to a private cigar party the night before the Super Bowl in downtown Miami that Cam Newton was hosting, and so that was a good time.
Great.
But we had a good time, and the thing that was funniest about that was we so we had a pretty decent tab going because there was like 7 or 8 of us, and the one thing that I will say, Miami one is expensive anyway, but when the Super Bowl is in town, everything costs like twice as much.
Yeah.
Literally everything, even places I regularly go to. I was like, this drink's usually $10. Why is it 15? So it was just stuff that was just crazy. So Dave mentioned on his show that reference to that the Cigar Authority was like everything down there was just ridiculous, and it was crazy. Man, I took an Uber. I live downtown Miami. Right now I'm in Maine for the quarantine because I spend the spring and summers up here. But I took an Uber a mile and a half from my apartment. I live downtown. It was like 10 blocks. It
Yeah.
normally would be like $12, and it was like $75. So the next day I'm like, I got to do this ride a few times, and my company pays for it, but I'm like, I have to be responsible. So I ended up taking those Uber scooters that you can rent with your phone.
Really?
And I would take Uber scooters around town during the Super Bowl because it was like $6 to take an Uber scooter, or it was like $75 to take an Uber. And the Uber scooter, because you're only going 1 mile and you're technically not supposed to ride in the sidewalk, but I did, and I rode on the street too, and whichever was the most convenient. But yeah, I think the best thing about the Super Bowl was the Uber scooters. So it was a huge downtown Miami living hack was taking Uber scooters during the Super Bowl.
I didn't even I don't even know anything about those scooters. I see people riding them, and I'm like, that looks cool, but like, I don't know. I've never like seen like where you can get them. I know some of the Red Sox players. Obviously like people who know me. I mostly work at Fenway Park a lot of the time, my day job. But I've seen a lot of the players who come in during the season. Like Jackie Bradley, I know is one. He rides in on rental scooter. I think he lives down the street.
Yeah.
And he'll just come and he just leaves his
Awesome.
scooter, and then he just goes home.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, probably for him it's super easy because then nobody recognizes who he is. He's not a massive guy. So he's just
Right.
like
Yeah.
he's just another dude that's on a scooter, and it's like, why would Jackie Bradley be on one? So like, I'm gonna ride this scooter, and it's probably down in his house, and like, he's sure he's got nice vehicles, but like, what are you gonna drive a Ferrari a mile and a half down the street to be annoyed? He probably gets to Fenway in like 5 minutes and calls it good, right?
Yeah. And everyone probably like you said, everyone sees him like, it looks like Jackie Bradley. Nah, it's not him. He'd be driving like an expensive car. Yeah, you're right. It can't be him. And people just leave him alone. I think even Xander Bogaerts I see just walks in all the time. I think he doesn't live far, or he takes a private car. I don't know. I always see him
What's
walking
weird for
in.
me with celebrities, this thing when I run into celebrities, there's different levels of it. Like definitely athletes, that wear masks or helmets or hats or whatever. I'm a big dude. I'm 6'3", like 260. Um, I'd like to be not 260, but this quarantine's been real hard on me. I've been eating a lot of steak. I've been drinking a lot of wine, and stuff happens. But that's not small. But like I almost ran over Derek Jeter once, and I didn't even know it was Derek Jeter because Jeter's like 6'1", 6'2", and he's like 185 pounds. He's not that big of a guy, 190, whatever he is. I was like, I'm almost like one person more than him. So like I ran into him in a line, and my buddy's freaking out. I'm like, we were going to a football game in Tampa, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, dude, you just ran over Jeter. And I was like, which guy? He's like, the guy over there with the black hat. And I was like, I didn't know that was Derek Jeter. Like, he just, like, for me, when I see these athletes in person, I expect them to be bigger. So for me, like football players, I'm 6'3", Susan. For me, football players and like professional wrestlers to an extent and things like that are like way more physically imposing and stand out way more than I would have someone stand out like a baseball player. Look at like Red Sox players from over the years. Big Poppy's a big guy. He's not that big. Um, and who was our shortstop that just retired? I mean, I'm an idiot for forgetting this, but I'm embarrassed. Red Sox shortstop just retired. Bad legs, been there forever. Little guy, little man syndrome. Dustin
Oh,
Pedroia.
no, he was a second baseman. That's why it threw me off.
Oh yeah, sorry, second baseman. So like Pedroia, dude,
Bad beat.
Pedroia is tiny. Like he's just
He
not
is.
a big guy. Like, dude, if I walk past Dustin Pedroia, I wouldn't think 2 seconds of it because he's just not very big. Like I just wouldn't. You physically see them on television and their characters are bigger than who they are. You see them personally. I wouldn't recognize Dustin Pedroia in person.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how someone might say that. He's definitely like, especially like when you see him on the field, he has a hat on, and he's actually pretty bald, or like he doesn't really have much there. So like without a hat on, he doesn't really look like what you would think he would look like. I don't know.
No,
He looks like.
I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate to have some cigars several times with some of these athletes, and one that I smoke with quite regularly is Orlando Cabrera. I used to smoke with him quite a bit when I lived in New Hampshire. He still lives in New England, but he's a big
Yep.
cigar smoker, and he's just a normal guy. But he won a World Series with the Red Sox, and man, like he's from Colombia. You're just like, oh man, I know. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's Orlando Cabrera, but for me, it's not that crazy because they're not physically imposing. But I have the respect for what they do and what they did. The athletes to me that are the most impressive that I get kind of excited about are the ones that are huge. Like at the Super Bowl party, we were down in Miami. I hung out with Javon Curse for a bit. We gave him a cigar and we had a good time. And he was a super nice guy. But man, he was ripped out of his brain. He's like 6'5". He was called the Freak. And he was just a massive human being and just physically imposing. It's like that's an imposing person. It's just a physical presence. I'm not saying these other people don't, but for me, when I run into some of these athletes, it kind of humanizes them, which is nice at the same time because you can connect on a different level. But I said, like, Dustin Pedroia, if I run into him, I'd be like, Dustin Pedroia would look very small next to me. So physically, it just brings, I said, it humanizes it. So it's really interesting in those moments. And I don't know how we got onto this, but it made me think about Dustin Pedroia and how tiny he is. He's like 5'2", 105 pounds.
There was one time, I mean, growing up as a kid, my situation, my dad always told me, like, when I was at the park, he's like, yeah, don't ever, like, bother the players. Like, don't bug them or whatever. Like, I don't want to get in trouble or whatever because, like, my kid was bothering the players. And I was just, all right. And so it was a country concert one year, and I was there with like, my mom and my sister.
I think this is the Tell the Elevator story.
Yeah, I think it is. He's always harassed me to tell the story. She's always harassed me to tell the story. We're getting the elevator.
By the way, we're about to have a horn here. We've made it 3 minutes longer than we did last time's show. So that was just for that. Sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
It's a better week for sure. Yeah, we got into the elevator. Right away, I recognized this guy, and I know who it is. And I'm like, I don't want to say anything because, like, I don't want to, like, I don't know. I didn't want it's that whole thing growing up. But I'm like, he's retired now, so it's really like I can't really bother a guy who's probably just here on his own accord. So I was a Red Sox player, and there's like that awkward silence when it's just like you and a celebrity in an elevator, and it's like you kind of both know what's going on, and they probably
And
oh,
they
that
know
you
who
know,
they are, right? Like they get it. They're like,
and
yeah,
it's
I know who I am.
do I say anything or so I was just like, all right, man, like I'm just gonna say it. I'm like, am I in the elevator with you, man? And he just looked at me funny, and like his wife started laughing, and he put his hand out and he shook my hand. He was like, nah, I just look a lot like him, and he gave me a wink, and he walked out. My mom was like, who the hell was that? And I was like, it's Jason Veritek. And she was like, oh my god, because she loved Jason Veritek.
He's awesome, but he's kind of like a normal guy, right? Like at the same
Yeah,
time,
he's
like he
cool.
always handled Boston media well and everything. I mean, Vitek was like a normal human being. Like I think if I ran into him, he would probably have a normal conversation as long as I wasn't being an asshole. You know what I mean? Then you run into some celebrities, or some athletes that just don't want to deal with you. Like I think if
Yeah,
Veritek, if you're like, yo, hey Tech, I think he'd probably wave at you. Then there's some where you'd be like, you know, hey Jeter, he might not even turn his head. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example. I think he's a pretty accessible
Jeter was
celebrity.
cool.
Yeah,
Jeter
he
was
was
cool.
cool.
Jeter
Yeah,
like
he was cool. And I think he'd be the type of guy, if you were sat there and was like, hey man, can I talk to you? You just want to talk to me, he'd be like, he'd talk to you. Charles Barkley's another one. I've run into him a couple times, and I mean, I definitely don't know him, but I just go up and start talking to him. He's like, hey man, what's going on? And we just talk like for a few minutes, and he's like, hey, have a good one. He's just a normal guy. He gets it. And I think
so
that
what
maybe is part of the reason why people don't bother them as much, because they're
yeah.
accessible. Like accessibility has to have a play on being somewhat left alone, because at that point you get to create your boundaries. And if your boundaries are, I'm going to respect what you're saying and talk with you, fine. Now there's a level of celebrity where you can't pick and choose that. Like a guy, you look like a person like The Rock. The Rock can't really pick and choose too much without, on a social level like that. I'm not, a guy like Jason Veritek's definitely a celebrity, but not the level like a guy like The Rock would be. So you would measure that in their personal situations. But I found a lot of really nice athletes out there, and there's a lot of good, a lot of good cigar smokers, and just said they are just human, and meeting them face to face and having a cigar really brings some commonality together. So I've met some of the nicer celebrities I've ever met over cigars, and I think the main reason why it's been enjoyable has been because of this.
There's two things I want to touch on. Um, one of them's kind of related, and one of them will kind of segue into our next topic. But the first thing and I won't tell the whole story because I can't tell all the stories. I've met a lot of celebrities over the
We got a lot
years.
of shows going on, man. We got a lot of shows here. We got to save some. We got to save some.
Yeah. So I will say, in October I went to go see Jeremy Piven do stand up, which was
Oh,
great. He was
sweet.
hilarious, and it was. I always loved Entourage as a kid. It's probably my second favorite show behind The Sopranos, which I don't care what anyone says about Game of Thrones. I think The Sopranos is the best drama on HBO of all time, and anyone who disagrees with me, I'm sorry. That's just how it is. But anyway, um, yeah, so I had the meet and greet, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna get to meet him. I get to meet Ari Gold, and you get up there at the end, and he just kind of stands there and ignores you, and he's too busy talking with this like girl that he's gonna take to the bar after, that he must have picked up outside because she definitely was not, anything special, and didn't even talk to you, didn't even say anything to you. He just kind of was like, hey, you just like take a photo and you walk away. And so I kind of learned from that, like, yeah, Jeremy Piven really is like Ari Gold. Also, on a touch, I have recently become friends with someone who was formerly in Mark Wahlberg's actual entourage, and I won't say his name, but he did tell me from the inside that not only is Jeremy Piven like Ari Gold, but Ari Gold is actually nothing like the real Ari, who is Ari Emanuel. For those who don't know, Ari Gold was based off of the real life talent agent Ari Emanuel, and Ari Gold's story really follows that of Ari Emanuel's. He did leave the William Morris agency to start Endeavor, and then the two later merged, similar to what happens on Entourage. But everyone always like, oh, so this guy's like really like a dick. No, actually, from what I was told, he's really not, and that's just kind of Jeremy Piven's attitude. So I thought that was funny, and it made sense after I met Jeremy Piven. But
That's awesome. So the viewers that are on here, our name dropping segment is done. We're done with the name dropping segment. We're going to go on to the next. If you're curious, we do know people. We know people.
we do.
We know people. So that is what it is. And but no, there's always good stories of that. And I've had bad bad situations too. Nothing bad, but I've had spots where it's like, man, that guy's kind of a dick. But it's they got to deal with what they got to deal with, so I don't wrong them, and I don't. But I do appreciate the ones that have found the way to make to make things people comfortable around them. And part of it's probably what you're bringing to the table too. So I've had
Yeah.
definitely some interesting experiences with that, and hopefully some more. But yeah, no. So it's been pretty cool. So like, what's our next topic? I mean, I didn't know we had topics. So like, what are we on? What are we on now?
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up because I know you're really into it and I'm super into it, and I haven't missed any of the episodes. Is of course the newest sensation on ESPN, The Last Dance.
So
For those who don't know what that is the 10-part documentary about Michael Jordan and the 1998 Chicago Bulls championship team. Um, I'm a Michael Jordan fan. Um, I haven't been into basketball in a long time, but it's bringing me back into it. It's helping me kind of get connected with basketball again. When I was a kid in the 90s, I had Michael Jordan's poster on my wall. I watched Space Jam probably about 75 times. Um, I remember my first pair of Air Jordans that I got. I loved Michael Jordan as a kid. So for me, it's a little bit of the nostalgia too. And John, you're a little older than me, so you probably have a little bit more memories of Michael Jordan. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up because I think it's a great documentary, and I've been enjoying it so far.
it's been awesome. I'm actually only on episode. We just finished episode 2. The reason I did that is I wanted to record it because ESPN is doing 2 episodes a week, I believe, correct?
Yep.
So like I said to my dad, I was like, because I'm watching with my father, I was like, let's watch the first episode, let's watch the second episode, and let's go week to week to week so we can spread this out over 10 weeks
Mm-hmm.
rather than just being 5 weeks and getting it done. So we just finished episode 2. We're gonna watch 3 this weekend. We'll watch 4 the next week after that, 5 after that. But we are recording them. But yeah, it's been awesome, man. Um, I was born in '84, so that was when Jordan came into the league. But you know, most of my early teens, and early young ages, from 5, 6, 7, when I really remembered stuff was, I mean, I remember watching Larry Bird play, but I was young. So it was Jordan was the one that I was watching. He was winning championships when I was in my early teens, and
Right.
and I remember when I got to see the end of his career when he was with the Wizards and his retirement and all of that stuff when he went and played baseball and then came back and he was number 45 for a bit. But yeah, no, it's been really cool. It's awesome. And that whole era of basketball was really unique. The era before Jordan, where it was, the Celtics, the Pistons, the Lakers, and he really transcended the game. And he didn't. I think the thing that for the show for me that reminded me about Jordan's greatness is how good he was on the microphone. His
Yeah.
interviews were perfect. He always said the right things. I mean, even when he didn't say the right thing, it was said the right way. Um, and I don't take that away from this generation of basketball players, but like LeBron James doesn't have the gifts of the gift of the presence that Michael Jordan brought to basketball. LeBron
Right.
James may go down as the best athlete ever to play the game. He may go down statistically as the best player ever, but he's never going to encompass what Jordan encompassed. And that for me, the show, not when they interview him now, but when they show interviews during the episodes of like after the game, like how he handled in episode 2, how he handled the situation with Scottie Pippen's contract was just
Yeah.
smooth. It was just smooth. If that was
Yeah.
LeBron would have been like, hey, people got to get paid, and not no offense. This is not to be rotten, but maybe there's some offense to it. But like LeBron James talks about how the NFL is slave owners. Jordan doesn't say anything like that. And, they're not. By the way, newsflash: they're not slave owners. Maybe they're not giving as much money as you think they should, but these players negotiated those contracts with them. They have a union that negotiated that. So to come out in the year 2020 as the largest face of the biggest face in basketball to say something like that about another sport, Jordan would never have said something like that. And he was also at a time where racial divide was even bigger, I believe, than it was now. I think we've advanced past that. Maybe not on a media side because things get shown more than they did then. Um, and LeBron lives in an era of social media where we get to see LeBron's opinion on everything. I don't know if Jordan would have been the same thing if he got to tweet things that he felt or had to have his own social media presence. But I think the thing that was most amazing about Jordan, as I said, was how well he handled the spotlight. and how that excelled and elevated who Michael Jordan is as a person and who he was as a basketball player and who he is now as a business and a brand. And I know why he's got to where he is today, but watching it again is like, man, this guy is smooth.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say, since you brought up LeBron, then I'm even going to bring up another player who I, in my opinion, I think is closer to Michael. That might change, obviously, as LeBron continues his career. But um, I think that there's a clip that I saw a few years ago, and it was Michael Jordan and LeBron James, and it was after, I think it was after a game, and it was the same question or the same topic. It was about being the best of all time. Michael Jordan was. Someone said something to Michael Jordan about being the greatest basketball player of all time. He humbly answered it like, I'm not the best player of all time. He was like, there's a lot of good players on this team. We all work together, and he showed the teamwork aspect. He didn't take the credit. He was humbly answered that question. LeBron James' answer was like, yeah, I mean, I'm the best players in the game, so I mean, like, I gotta have a good team around me. But like, that's not how
Well,
you answer
well, if you want to see not humbled, I would never describe Michael Jordan as humble. If you want to see you should watch his Hall of Fame induction speech. He is nothing but humble. Sorry, he's nothing but he is not humble. He's anything but humble. He pretty much thanked himself and Scottie Pippen to an extent. Um,
Scotty.
but yeah, LeBron is a type of guy. Kobe's the closest thing you'll ever see to Jordan. Kobe was the end of an era of
Yes.
assassins, of guys that were just out there. Like Kobe wanted to embarrass everybody that played against him. Like when he had the ball and you were guarding him, he wanted to make you look like an idiot. Um, because he knew that was good for the game, and that would give them an advantage to win. But he also like he had a chip on his shoulder. Same thing. Jordan had a chip on his shoulder. Tom Brady's got a chip on his shoulder. Like these guys that are at this high level of excellence, they still have things to prove to themselves. Kobe is the closest thing that Jordan will ever see. And you were talking about a clip. The biggest clip for me that was the biggest difference. This was probably 7, 8 years ago, maybe a little longer. And they interviewed LeBron James. They said, LeBron's kind of apologetic because he wants to make everybody happy. Jordan didn't care. Kobe didn't care if it made you happy. It was like, no, if I said something you don't like it, yeah, no, hey, that's your problem. Like I said it. So LeBron wants people to like him, which is not a wrong thing, and he's huge. I mean, he's a mega star, and he's a mogul. He's gonna be he's gonna be very successful in his career after basketball, and he's been successful in his career in basketball. I mean, arguably, he said maybe athletically and statistically, he will go down as the best basketball player ever. In my opinion, I would maybe say that. However, he's not Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan will always be number one for a couple different reasons, and Kobe will be close to Kobe's in my top five. But the reason Kobe is they had this interview and they asked LeBron James. They said, "Oh, if you and Kobe played 1-on-1, who do you think would win?" And LeBron's like, "Oh man," he's like, "That would be a good matchup, man. That would be a good game. I don't know." He goes, "That'd be a good one to watch, right?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, yeah." And then they flashed over to Kobe and they asked him the same exact question. And Kobe didn't even hesitate. He said, "Me, I'd win." Like he didn't take a second. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
if you and LeBron James were to play 1-on-1, who would win?" Kobe goes, "Me, absolutely, 100%." And And then he said, "Well, it's because I'm more of a one-on-one type player. I'm more of an isolation player, this and that." And LeBron's more of a passer, this and that. But he explained some stuff out there. But he said with no hesitation, me. And Jordan would say the same thing to anyone who's gonna play. If you play one-on-one against Larry Bird, who was gonna win? Me. If you played one-on-one against Magic Johnson, me. LeBron James would always be like, "Oh man, that'd be a cool matchup. I'd love to do that." He joined a team with buddies. Um, if you watch the Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, they asked him about Scottie Pippen, and he's like, "Hey, how do you think Scottie feels about this, or what do you think about the Scottie situation?" He goes, "If you have questions about Scottie, you need to ask Scottie." LeBron James would answer the question on Scottie
Yeah.
Pippen's behalf, and I'm not saying that's negative. They're just two very different people, but that's what elevated Jordan to another level. And Jordan, Jordan came from a different background than LeBron did. Things were different then. How basketball was handled. So it's just an interesting thing, and it is a great series. I've really enjoyed it. But the big thing for me was, man, Jordan is just he's a beast. He's just a beast. He handles the media, he handles questions, he handles controversy, and he says it how it is. When he says something, he means it. And I think he's a really genuine person. I'm not saying LeBron isn't. It's easy to compare them because of their level of greatness, but they're just two
Yeah.
different, very different people, and it's a very stark contrast to these two different players and these two different levels of greatness. My favorite meme of the quarantine so far, besides the release the murder hornets and things like that, was this meme. It said, "Aren't you so happy that we're talking about Michael Jordan again instead of LeBron James?" And I was like, I love LeBron as a basketball player fan. It's my favorite sport. LeBron's great for the sport. Love him. But man, I love talking about Jordan. I'm sick of talking about
Yeah.
LeBron. I was never tired of talking about Jordan. And I'm also never going to get tired of talking about Kobe. I get a little annoyed talking about LeBron, and part of that could be social media exposure, and the insight that we get to have now personally into people's personal lives and their views, which we didn't have that with Jordan, which he was privy to not have that. You know, he was fortunate, I think. That's part of what he was. But man, he was smooth. And it is fun to be talking about Jordan rather than talking about LeBron for now. And we can always talk about LeBron. It's not going away. He's one of the greats.
Yeah. I think another thing too is interesting is during that whole documentary, you have Michael Jordan. If you look closely, because they kind of shoot him, I think in two different spots because I think they were filmed at two different times. The one where he's kind of sitting more on like the it looks like they're filming more to the right.
Yeah.
I think he's like shorts and whatever. If you look on his side table, he's got a glass of whiskey and he's got an ashtray with a cigar ready to go. The intro leading into the whole documentary, he's cigar. They document when he first started smoking cigars publicly in the locker room after
How
the
many
second.
episodes are you? How many episodes you in?
Oh, I'm all the way in. I'm all the way into episode 6.
All right, so
Uh,
he's a legendary cigar smoker.
very, very.
Legendary.
Do you know what his favorite cigar is?
He's a Cohiba fan.
I know he likes Cohiba, and they did show him smoking Cohibas, the Cuban Habanos Cohibas, not Generals. Um, but according to Cigar Aficionado, his favorite cigar is actually a Partagas number 4, I
And
believe.
that would be the official thing. Him and Marvin Shanken have known each other for a long time, and they have a very good relationship. And if you really if you want to watch something unique, go on CigarAficionado.com and check out their interview series with Michael. It's really cool because he sits down with Marvin, and he's known Marvin for so long that they're having a friend to friend conversation. And
Right.
Jordan's wife is Cuban, so
Yes.
they were talking, and Marvin had asked him a question about, Michael, do you ever have, would you ever want to go visit Cuba and
Oh, I know
this
this.
that,
Yeah.
and Jordan says to him, he's like, oh, Marvin, that'd be great. And he's like, well, let me tell you something, and he didn't kind of interrupt, but it went a different way, and he's like, well, I could tell you something. And Jordan was like, oh yeah, you could definitely get me down there. We could go down and do this. And he goes, no, he goes, that's not what I was saying. I'm taking some liberty with the words here. But Marvin said, I wouldn't want to go to Cuba with you. And he's like, well, why? And because they would love to have you down there. And he goes, it would be a spectacle. He goes, they would love to have you down there, and they'd make a big deal about it, pomp and circumstance. He goes, you couldn't go anywhere without 15, 20,000 people following you. And it really humanized Michael Jordan to me because he didn't even think about that. He was like, "Oh, I could go down there and go to these cigar factories and visit Cuba." And he said that he goes, "There's personal reasons because of his wife's being Cuban, why he hasn't done that. He would like to, but there's reasons why he hasn't, and personal reasons." But not once did it cross his mind that if Michael Jordan went to Cuba, that it wouldn't be a big freaking deal. Like he
Oh
was
yeah.
just like when Marvin told him that, he was like, he didn't say yes, but you could see it in his eyes. It was like, yeah, Michael Jordan in his head. He's like, I can't do that. Like if I
Yeah.
went down there, it would be a disaster. Like if Michael Jordan went to Cuba ever, it'd be all over the news. Here, there, everywhere. Michael Jordan goes to Cuba. It would be a political statement. And not once did he think that because he's so passionate about the cigars. He's so passionate about cigars in general. And he was sitting talking with one of his friends. So he's having a one on one conversation. And in that one on one conversation with his friend, he had the realization of who he was and what he's done. And it was really,
Yeah.
really interesting. And you could watch it. It was like, he said something just as a normal guy. It'd be like you and I talking. And it was like, hey man, you want to go to Cuba with me? Oh man, that'd be awesome. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to Cuba with you. He goes, because I like you don't realize what would happen because of essentially who you are. And it
Yeah.
was such a unique little short blip of the interview they did for the cover story a few years back. But it was a really good. It was a humanizing moment with a really major celebrity and one of the most recognizable people in the world. And he
Yeah.
didn't think it. He didn't think it, man. He was like, For a second there in that conversation, he wasn't Michael Jordan to himself, which was awesome, and it was so
Yeah.
cool. And then for the sudden, it was also kind of it was kind of defeatist on my level too. I kind of felt bad for him because not bad, but I was kind of like, man, that must have been a little disappointing when he realized like, wait a minute, I can't go there without it being a big deal.
Yeah. No, that is that is amazing, and it's another one of those things that draws me to Michael Jordan. Um, but like I was gonna say before, it kind of tied this all together, like watching this documentary, and yeah, I'm obviously all the way caught up, but yeah, they show a lot of the guys smoking cigars, and Michael was
All of them.
you'll get into episode 3, I think they start talking about Dennis Rodman, and they talk about how Dennis Rodman went to Michael's room after a bad game that Dennis got kicked out of, and he asked Michael for a cigar, and then when they start showing the championships, they show Michael smoking, they show
Has
they
Brad
show
has Brad Doherty been in there yet? Brad Doherty. Have you seen Brad Doherty's name? Brad Doherty played with him in North Carolina, and then he was a coach for a while.
no,
They're good friends, and Brad
I don't
Doherty's a
think so.
big cigar smoker. And I've actually run into him before, and we smoked cigars together, and we just talked about different stories, and he told me some
Right.
epic Jordan smoking stories, like epic, where it was just like he just chain smokes, and like he got they started becoming cigar smokers kind of together, and they were friends. He picked them up like it was there's never a time Michael Jordan doesn't have a cigar around him. It just doesn't exist. Like
Yeah.
it's not a real deal. Like when they cut away from him in those scenes and he's not smoking, you said the cigar's ready. No, the cigar wasn't ready. It's been smoked. Like that
Oh
was
yeah.
just there waiting to get smoked again. It's part of a prop. I guarantee you he's puffing on something in the meantime of them talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, they show. I think it was in episode 6. They show him in his hotel room, like kind of waiting to like go out for the day, and he's like laying on the couch and he's smoking a Cohiba. He's smoking a Cohiba Churchill, a long Cohiba, the yellow band on it. Right away, I knew what it was, and smoking Cubans, and yeah, even the coach. Why am I blanking on his name? Um, Phil Jackson. They even show Phil Jackson smoking cigars too. I get the feeling, Phil Jackson smokes a lot of cigars as well. Um, and like I said, other players, they show. So I like how the cigar culture is also really exposed in the documentary as well. I think it's really interesting, at least for me and probably for you and us who smoke cigars, who are also into Michael Jordan and that whole documentary and the sports thing. I thought it was really cool to see. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting was this year, obviously LSU won the college football championship, and I don't remember the kid's name. Who was the quarterback on that team? He was smoking the cigar. There's a lot of pictures of him smoking the cigar in the locker room after, and they were trying to give them a hard time for smoking cigars after the game or whatever.
Who is this
I'm not
one?
sure.
Oh, Joe Burrow.
Yeah. And I remember reading after, like, the security and the cops were giving a hard time about smoking cigars in the locker room or whatever. And I'm like, so here's 2020 or 2019. And these kids are celebrating a championship, smoking cigars in the locker room, like they've seen everybody before them do, right? And people are giving them a hard time. And you go back to the 90s, and I know it's a different time or whatever, but I'm just saying for the sake of how things have changed. And you go back to the 90s, and here's the Chicago Bulls team, walking all over the stadium and doing the press after with the trophy and everything. They're just smoking up a storm, and no one says anything, and that's just how it was. And now today, you have these kids, who are coming up now. It's their turn, and they're champions, and they're celebrating with cigars. And now now they're frowned upon. You can't do that, and people are giving them a hard time. And it's kind of disappointing to see, but unfortunately, that's what happens. Things change over time. But yeah, I thought that was interesting myself. That was a connection that I made.
So
where are we?
So
for
we're
time?
in here we go. We're in overtime right now. We're in overtime. Smoking
Ooh, here we
Tobacco
go.
live overtime.
Overtime.
Yep. All we
I
got
was
for
just
that
gonna
is the
say,
bicycle horn.
that's it. That's all you could come up with.
I got a party noisemaker too. And then the DJ horn is my favorite. And the Glockenspiel's not bad either. I guess Glockenspiel's kind of annoying. But yeah, anyway, we're in overtime. So thank you for sticking around for overtime. Michael Jordan just hit the game-winning shot, and here we are. So, all All right, let's pick the overtime talk. We got people in the, I think we got a few people in the chat box. So if anybody's got cigar questions or anything like that, go ahead. Um,
Girl.
we'll take some of those now. That's what overtime's about here at Smoking Tobacco Live on Thursday nights. But yeah, so that was good discussion for sure. To get people going a little bit. What else have you smoked this week? What cigars have you been enjoying throughout this week besides the Novas?
I smoked Byron Distinguidos the other night, which is I enjoy. I had my first. I think it's actually new to the collection. It's the Byron Apique Poema. I had one of those. My honest opinion, I was a little. And people who know me as a cigar smoker know I'm a little bit of a draw snob. I really like a loose draw, and it was a little on the tighter side, so I was disappointed because I was like, "Oh, this is it's a Byron. It's from the Poema line. It's gonna be awesome, And then I lit it up and I was like, "Oh, it's tight," and it threw me off, and I couldn't really enjoy it. But I mean, like, yeah, the flavor was good, and it still had decent smoke production, but it threw me off a little bit. So I had one of those. I've been smoking Novas, obviously.
So
I had,
you smoked a lot of Byron and Atabey and Select Tobacco stuff. So that's pretty strange
yeah,
for me because they're really high end cigars. You'd never had that experience before, right?
in terms of what?
Of terms of that cigar, you've never had something that had a tight draw or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah, that one in particular, yeah. That one in particular, yeah. It was the first time I smoked it.
So
Most,
does that make you feel averse to trying it again because you've had good experience with the other cigars, or does that make you want to try it again to kind of see if that's not that's not a consistent issue? Because I've never smoked one of those that hasn't been perfect.
yeah. I mean, I would give it another shot. Yes, more so. I mean, whenever I try a new cigar, if I don't hate it, I will try it again. I believe you should give a cigar at least a couple of tries before you really cast it out. Especially in a when you talk about Byron Atabey stuff
By the
that
way, Charlie,
from
not to interrupt, but Charlie Mormon says we need to stop the horns. So you know what, Charlie, the horns we just got more horns here. I'm sorry, the Glockenspiel, DJ Eric, and the party noise maker, and we're gonna end it with a triangle. That's just for you, Charlie. Thank you for your opinion. We apologize, but the horns will continue. I will try to keep that in moderation, and our apologies. Sorry.
but
Anyway, continue what you were saying.
that's okay. Like I was saying, so yeah, but especially in the case, Atabey and Byron obviously being very top shelf, if not the top shelf in the cigar world, and a lot of the stuff that circulates their origin and all of the rumors and stuff that are out there about them. Yeah, I mean they are what they are. I mean they're very special cigars. Yeah, especially I'm gonna try that cigar again a couple of times. But yeah, I was a little surprised because every Byron Atabey I've ever had has been flawless. I mean, a lot of people who know me have known that I've done something that is almost unheard of that people have laughed at me about, and I don't care because I do have the support of a Mr. Jonathan behind this. But I have one with me. This is the Byron Grand Poema. This is my favorite cigar of all time. It is. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I had this conversation with Jonathan once upon a time, and I said, hey, I'd give this cigar 101. And everyone would be like, oh my God, what are you talking about? And Jonathan was like, I'd back you up on that. And that's when I knew I had some validation when, of course, the Mr. Jonathan was like, I'll get your back
here's
on
my
that.
thing. Here's my thing. When you rate something, whether it's food, drink, cigars, anything, women, clothes, shoes, when you give something 100, which is like a 10 out of 10,
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's gonna be the top ever. So like for me, I would never give anything 100, and I stopped doing this recently, where I was like, they're like, oh, how was this the best steak I've ever had? And I was like, I don't know if it's the best steak I've ever had. I don't know if I've ever had one better, but I don't know if it's the best I've ever had. And also, if it is the best I've ever had, if I say it's the best I've ever had to that point and I give it a perfect score, there is nothing better than 100. Like 101, you can say, oh, this is 101. That's not real. It's not. There's not more than 100% of anything.
I
You
guess
know what I
that's
mean?
true.
So I always looked at it that way. So I don't give anything 100. And where this came from for me was for Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews. So people are like, oh, like you got to always have room for maybe it's better. So if you give something 100, Now, if you have something 100 and you have the next thing and you're like, well, this is 100 too. There's like then it was two of the best things you've ever. It was two things that were equally as good and the best thing you ever had. So you can have a number of 9.9s or 99s. The second you give something 100, nothing else can ever have 100 again. And if you give something else 100, it discredits the 100, in my opinion. And
He had
that's not to talk about other people saying that, but for me, perfect would be like a 9 out of 10. You know what I mean? A 10 out of 10 is never going to happen for me because I want to leave room for other things to be perfect, and there's always imperfections in perfection. So I would like if I were to rate cigars, very rarely would it be the upper 90s, or I would definitely never give anything 100. And I would always leave room for interpretation, and then I'd revisit some of the things that I felt highly about. But I never go to 100. 100 for me is, I used to say, oh, it was the best thing I ever had. No, this is one of the best cigars I've ever had. I don't know if I've ever had anything better. I've had cigars that are equally as good, if not better. This one's equally as good, if not better, to the ones that I've had there. But I don't know if it's the best one I've ever had. For now, yeah, it's just as good as the best ones I've ever had. You know what I mean?
I think that whole thing kind of started off as a joke, and then just something that obviously. But then I just kind of ran with it because I was like, I don't know, but you make a good point. You make a good point. And I'm not shy about it. I feel this is the best cigar I've had, until something else comes along that maybe changes my mind. But I've still smoked hundreds of different cigars, different blends, different brands, and that was just one that was the best for me. So that's just where it stands right now. And like I said, yeah, the origins of it weren't really serious, and it's something I just kind of ran with. But at the end of the day, I'm like, well, it is still my favorite cigar. It's still one of the best that I think that I've ever had. Especially considering all that does go into it. I mean, not just hey, it's great smoke, but I mean, you appreciate the sentiment behind the stuff that Nelson Alfonso does. I kind of played into it too. But yeah, I mean, that's my spiel on it. But yeah, you make some good points. I get where you're coming from. Also, Dave Portnoy has given a 10 out of 10 on pizza.
Which pizza was it?
I think it was I don't remember which one it was, but I'm pretty sure it was a pizza in the New England area, if I'm not mistaken. It was something around here, or the Boston area. I'm pretty sure it was in the Boston area. I thought it was a 10. I'm pretty sure, because I know there is one. I think he did give one, and I'm pretty sure it was in the Boston area.
Really?
I know that he said the best pizza in his mind, the best pizzas in Boston are Regina in the North End and Santapio's in East Boston. He said,
yeah, Santapio likes it.
Yeah, that's what he said. The best. Now I don't remember what he gave him for a score, but I remember him saying, I think it was in the Regina review.
Yeah.
He said like, oh no, like Regina and Santapio was like best pizzas in Boston, like hands down. But yeah, I'm not sure which one was the 10, but I know he's done it once. And if, like you said, if he did do that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the only one, unless he does find something where he's like, I have to change that score. But I don't know. So I mean, yeah, I guess it can happen. That's my point.
Yeah, certainly. But I listen. I try to limit it to that for that reason. That's about that's why I try to keep. I want to leave room for growth. I want to leave room for opportunity for other things to be, to be great at the same time. And I don't want to discredit the things that I find that are great. And I don't say that does that. And at the end of the day, ratings and stuff, that doesn't really actually matter. It's
Right.
if the person enjoys it. So it doesn't matter, but it is fun to talk about. But so we don't have any questions in there, and I think we're getting to the end to wrap up here. Is there anything else you want to touch on? In regards to smoking tobacco, I guess we'll definitely do this next week again. I plan
Yep.
on sticking around doing this for until I get back to kind of a normal routine. So for now, it's great, and I'll definitely stay a regular after that point too. But for now, we'll keep doing this every Thursday on my end.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep on doing it. I think it's good, especially right now. It's a good situation for both of us right now, and keeps us active in the community of scars. And then I appreciate you coming on here every week and helping me out with the show. And just like, subscribe, follow us social media, Smokin Tabacco. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, SmokingTobacco.com. Go on there, check it out. Check out the reviews. Check out some of the posts I've written. Check out my newest one on Nova Cigar. It's on there. Sign up for the newsletter for all the new stuff that comes out and all the new information I'm going to be releasing. I've been, really ramping up Smoking Tobacco's world, especially during quarantine. I've had so much time. It's really starting to grow. So yeah, just that. Just go check it out. YouTube, we're on there. I'm starting to make more videos and get some videos out there. It's a little more intimate for people to watch. Also, go check out Quarantine Grilling. John's got his own grilling channel that he's got going on. So go check that out. Facebook. You're on YouTube, right?
Yep, on YouTube, just episode 6 just got uploaded today. Quarantine Grilling on Facebook and Quarantine Grilling on YouTube. And yeah, so a lot of exciting stuff going on, and looking forward to getting back to a little bit of what the new normal is going to be with cigars here. But yeah, no, it's been, I've been taking advantage of the time and trying to make the best of it, and this has been enjoyable. So we'll keep this up. So we'll see everybody next Thursday, and great time. So it said, Matt, stick around because we'll talk on Skype here a little bit after. But we'll go to our closing scene. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next Thursday. Matt, we'll see you throughout the week on Smoking Tobacco online at smokingtobacco.com and on Smoking Tobacco on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll see you through my stuff, and we'll hopefully see everyone on Monday at Quarantine Grilling. So have a great night. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next Thursday.
See you guys.